はじめまして。富士急ハイランドの書いてるみと申します。よろしくお願いします。
スカイデキのインターナショナルセールスマネージャー、ブラック・アロンです。はじめまして。よろしくお願いします。では、始めましょうか。
はい。
簡単に会社の紹介をさせていただきます。インターアメリカステージは35年やっていて、スカイデキは20年やっています。インターアメリカステージは劇場の機材の会社です。スカイデキは世界で約400の劇場、アリーナ、ライブハウスなどにしています。カットワークは知っていますか？
はい、知っています。
スカイデキはカットウォークより安全です。カットウォークは軽くて設置に時間がかかりません。カットウォークは1平方メートル125キロです。でも、スカイデキは1平方メートル27キロです。
軽いですね。
そして、スカイデキのお客様によってカスタマイズしています。インターアメリカステージはスカイデキだけではなく、他にもたくさんの商品がございます。
ありがとうございます。じゃあよろしくお願いし
ありがとうございました。よ
ます。
ろしくお願いします。Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
I'm
appreciate
gonna
it.
do the interview later, so we can actually
Okay.
see like what was the difficult part, and then you actually learning Keigo. So this is impressive.
Thank you. ありがとうございます。
All right. So, Elon-san, are you ready
は
for
い。
the English interview? So, just a casual interview, like how's the life there in Japan, and how's the business, and the compared to the
Sure.
States, and all the things. Are you
Yeah,
ready?
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, let's get started the interview.
Cool.
All right. So, Aaron-san, welcome to my YouTube channel. How's it
Thank
going?
you. It's going great. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And also, congratulations on your completion of level 1. おめでとうございます。
はい、よろしくお願いします。ありがとうございま
はい、よ
した。
ろしくお願いします。
はい。
So, like our listener show up this amazing introduction in Japanese. People think that you already live in Japan, you can
Mhm.
speak Japanese, but can you actually explain how actually you really moved this amazing progress with Keigo? How was it?
It takes a lot of practice. So my instructor, she helped me a lot, Shinobu-san, and of course she was really patient with explaining the Keigo to me. In my line of work, I'm always working with professionals, so it's always business, it's always
Mm.
high-level executives. I do interviews with a lot of architects and designers in major Japanese construction companies. And to make a good impression, I have to speak Keigo. If I speak too casual, it's of course rude. So starting to learn and understand the difference was really, really important to me. So I needed to take the time. And generally, most conversations I have with friends are more casual. Or if I
Mm.
watch TV, such as movies or anime, a lot of times they speak in a more casual way too. So this idea of that keigo, we don't exactly have it in English, sort of do.
Mm.
So it was very important for me to understand some of the situations where I might be in that I need to speak in a more formal way.
Amazing. So, Aaron-san, as an American,
Mhm.
live in Japan and do business. And,
Mhm.
we have a lot of people live in the States, they're already studying and then plan to even visit Japan and some business or even personal traveling. So, what do you
Mhm.
think? Like, what was actually most difficult part for you? Like, it's not the English country. That's even harder part,
Ooh.
right? And even the
Yeah,
culture wise, what do you think?
I think for me, the hardest part when moving here was all of the paperwork that has to be
Mm-hmm.
done. I came over as a student and I finished my degree in business here. So that was a little bit easier than coming over with my work visa, which is what I have now. And in order to make the transition, you have to be ready with a lot of paperwork. All the paperwork's always in Japanese. So it definitely helps to have a friend or somebody you can trust that will help you through the process. And even with some friends that did help, I would say that's the most difficult. The country itself is great, super convenient to live, especially I'm in Tokyo, so I'm in the city, and it's beautiful and it's just everything is at your fingertips, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bit of a barrier when it comes to language and, of course, culture and things that are so different from the United States. So I love it here. I really do. But there were definitely challenges.
Understand. And then which actually state are you from?
So I grew up in Florida, but my wife and we were in Colorado for 8 years before we moved here. And we had some
Mm,
Japanese friends in Colorado, which was cool. And that was a little bit of an introduction to the culture, a different means than most, you know. I mean, we did watch anime and play Japanese video games and things, but being friends with actual Japanese people in the States helped
mm,
introduce us to some of the thought processes of the culture. And then we came and visited and we loved it. So we decided to move.
amazing. So when you're in the States, before moving to Japan, what was actually your imagination? Maybe the most of actually maybe American people has this
Mhm.
imagination.
It's a lot of it was based, of course, on anime because that's
Hmm.
the big introduction for
Yeah. Which
Westerners into
which
the
anime
Japanese
did you
culture.
learn from the culture
Oh
wise?
wow, a lot. Just all the
Mm.
different like high school drama type animes that are out there.
Okay.
Of course, I grew up with like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon, but I would say things like Haruhi is one that
Mm.
was kind of based in school. There's a lot of other ones.
Mm.
Your Name was a very cool movie. Let's see, Your Lie in April before that. Beautiful story, beautiful animation. A lot of those sort of high school based ones that are
Mm.
slice of life kind of actually very accurately show what Japan is like. You know,
Huh.
the architecture, the type of food, the way people interact and talk to each other in a more casual setting. That's pretty accurate. You know, it's based on real life.
Amazing.
Um,
So you didn't have
yeah,
big like, wow, this is what the anime actually shows. Of course, Dragon Ball is not the real life, but
no.
it's the other anime is more accurately like you can felt that
They're
it's like, oh, like something like I have seen these
Mhm.
things. Mm.
Yes, exactly. The big one for me was Initial D. I love cars, and I used to work in
Mm.
automotive shops. And so coming here and seeing a bit of the car culture reflected
Mm.
in shows like Initial D and One Gun Midnight was very cool for me. That was a bit emotional here and there to be like, it's real. So,
Amazing. So living in Japan, now it's like you have your own business, and then also you did this business presentation, and you already
mhm,
mentioned a little bit before our talk, like how people usually talk casually, like as a friend,
mhm,
versus you talk with a
mhm,
keigo, which is more formal Japanese, presenting
yeah,
your business is a way
mhm,
different. And
yes.
what did you learn? Like there are different politeness in Japan. This is definitely different from the English culture. And
Mhm,
it's more simplified language, I think. What do you
yeah.
think? What's the differences between right now? Is this like how you talk in
Mhm.
Japanese versus English?
Oh yeah, no, there's a big difference. In my industry, it's a bit more casual because it's construction-based industry.
Mm.
And so everybody is kind of an artistic mind in the performing
Mm.
art side. And in the construction side, it's a business mindset, but it's a get your hands dirty kind of business mindset. It's not
Mm-hmm.
crunching numbers. So
Mm.
even there, you don't see people in ties. People will show up in their jeans and things like that for business
Mm.
meetings. Very common in the
Mm.
United States for this. However, even though I'm presenting the same products over here, I show up to business meetings in suits. And, you know, I go to a construction site and I make sure that I've got a suit and the right sort of shoes and things on if I to present. So there's a level of, I'd say, sophistication that Japan has when it comes to doing business to business transactions, which I appreciate. I like that kind of thing. And that formality helps you know what to expect in a good way.
Mm.
Whereas in the States, sometimes you don't really know who you're going to meet. And
Mm.
because there's some people who are super formal still and some people who are very informal. And of course, that exists in Japan. But generally, there's a kind of a procedure to business engagements here.
Yeah, so
And that's
depends on the
kind
more
of goes.
personality in the States. In
Hmm.
Japan, is more depending on the situation. So if it's situation is
Exactly.
like a business setting, like their standard like business
Hmm.
style conversation. Right. So Aaron, I really want to ask a lot of things, especially this 2024. Lots of
Hmm.
actually American people are interested in to travel to Japan, or some people
Hmm.
want to move to Japan. I don't know why. Maybe it's just Japan is safer or like more
Hmm.
quiet. What do you think as American? Sometimes do you go back to the States?
I do sometimes. If I do
Mm.
go, it's to visit family or friends or for business, but it's not very often. I would say a lot of the reasons we moved is because we wanted to experience a different culture. We
Mm.
wanted to have a challenge, which was the language. You know, my wife and we always enjoyed Japanese things in the first place, so that helped. And then I'd say it definitely is safer than the US
Mm.
in a lot of ways. It is definitely quieter. There's just different opportunities of life here, which is pretty
Mm.
cool. It's a little hard to explain sometimes unless you come and check it out. And it's different
Mm.
than just coming as a tourist and going to the tourist things. But the second time we came with the intention of what would we live like if we moved here? And we took some time to really try to live like we were actually here as
Mm.
residents. And that shifted our perspective a bit, but it allowed us to understand what it was that we were kind of getting into. And we fell in love with it. So it is very different than the United States. People think differently, they act differently. And that can be both wonderful and frustrating. You just have to be prepared. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say my bit of advice is if you're interested in coming to Japan and you're thinking, oh, I have to move to Japan, come
Mm.
here for, maybe a month or two if you can.
Mm.
Live like you would in
Mm.
maybe a share house or an Airbnb or something, but like a
Mm.
real place that isn't a hotel so that you're like engaged in daily life here and see what it might be like.
I'm
And yeah,
glad to hear. As a
yeah.
Japanese, that's how you feel. Like it's very interesting to hear the how, American people feel that life in Japan.
Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
we can talk about the learning Japanese, but what
Mhm.
do you think before Japan Language Factory, what kind of things you have tried already for how
Oh,
long?
wow. I have been off and on studying Japanese for 8 years, maybe 10 years, as
Wow.
very, very casually. The first thing I remember picking up was a Japanese kanji game for the Nintendo DS, but I don't remember anything from it. I've tried Duolingo, and Duolingo now is much better than it used to be, and I do like the gamification of it, but it doesn't really allow you to have that interactive communication. So I'd say it's a supplement, which is good,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely not a primary. I did in my college have a Japanese course for one semester with the book Mina no Nihongo. That book I do not like. It is completely in kanji and hiragana, and it makes it very challenging for a beginner to get a good foundation of understanding what it is there. So without a very good teacher, I wouldn't recommend that route at all.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No
I
problem.
created Japan Language Factory, and I am the one I hate to study. That was whole my
Hmm.
like school life. It was always I'm not motivated to study, and I don't remember. I know that even if I study, I don't remember. So what
Yeah.
the point of studying because I will not remember, and
Yeah.
that's always holding me back to learn English because I was a
Hmm.
huge fan of like American movie and the culture and everything. But because I knew that it's even if I study, I don't remember. And
Yeah.
I could not speak English until 30. And
Hmm.
then I realized that it's just how I can motivate myself. Okay, what if I
Yeah.
can just talk to the real person tomorrow? I can make
Hmm.
a friend in the real person. So
Yep.
that's how I actually realized the motivation is most important than just the way you actually study or like even like my brain problem or not because I thought
Yeah.
that's my brain problem. Maybe why they can remember everybody like taking tests and they can't remember.
Yeah, no, it's really a huge part of it is about the connections you make with people. Absolutely. And your that motivation factor as to why you want to learn the language and who's going to help you in this journey is huge.
Right. So let's actually talk about the final topics about your future. So you actually mentioned
Okay.
that you're gonna actually buy maybe the house and how
Hmm.
the actually the plan? US 6 months, Japan 6 months, like a half
Hmm.
life, or what is actually your expectation in the future?
So the best scenario for me is that
Yeah.
my business does really well here and that I can sell products all over the world. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And so the goal would be to establish this branch office here nice and like firmly establish it so that I can purchase a home here and
Mm.
then maybe purchase a home abroad somewhere else where I can live part of the year and then
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have the freedom to be able to travel wherever I wanted whenever I wanted. That's really
Mm-hmm.
kind of the end goal. So my wife and I love Japan. And my wife sees us staying here as long as we possibly can. But I would love to purchase a home here, buy a car here, things like that. I haven't bought a car yet, but we'll see how things go. As far as the business goes, as long as it goes well, hire a couple employees and really expand it is kind of my goal. So
Amazing.
yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to do
Yeah,
in the
sounds like a
future.
plan,
Yeah.
really. You like Tokyo, but also you can discover maybe countryside. You can
Yep.
actually maybe see a new place that you will love.
Exactly. That's why I'm looking forward to visiting my friends when they go down to Sasebo. That I want
Mm.
to see other parts. We had the opportunity to go to Hiroshima last spring. It was lovely. It was a much slower pace of life than Tokyo, and it was a beautiful town, beautiful city. And I've visited, of course, Kyoto and Osaka. We visited Atami, and that was
Mm-hmm.
very cute, and it was right at the ocean. So there's so many beautiful places to live that are not just
Mm.
Tokyo.
Mm.
So in the future, it might not be Tokyo that we live.
Mm.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see what happens.
Amazing. So the one last request is a message to our future student or even
Okay.
the people who listening this YouTube. They definitely like Japan. That's why they're watching this video. So, but it's
Yeah.
maybe the question is maybe they're not started learning Japanese yet, or maybe they're
Hmm.
just only using textbook or something, but they're
Hmm.
not feeling like making progress. But also, of course,
Hmm.
they want to move to Japan. They want to travel. So, what is going to be the
Hmm.
advice to make it first step?
Okay.
Mm.
So I would
Mm.
say the first step would be to look at where you are right now. What is your Japanese language level? What have you used in the past to get where you're at? How long did it take you? And is it working for you? If it's not working for you, what other solutions are out there that might work better for you? For me, the Japanese Language Factory works. It was a wonderful experience that I enjoyed a lot. It was also a little bit challenging, which was cool, but I needed that push. So there was that. And I would say look into those different options for yourself and see what your future might be like in, say, 5 years. Do you want to live in Japan? Do you want to visit? Do you want to have friends? What is it that you want to do? Use those as your motivating, like your North Star, basically, for this goal. Because learning a language is a challenge, no matter what. It's really difficult and it's going to take a lot of time. And that's the reality of it. But if you do it in a smart way, you can kind of streamline that. And so that's one thing that I was very happy about with the JLF is that it was much more streamlined because it was suited towards my needs specifically. That's one thing that if you're kind of on the fence, I would say talk to Tenemi. Ask her for a session, see if it is right for you because she knows what she's talking about. I would say definitely assess your own personal situation, your own goals, and see if this is the path you really want for yourself. And if it is, ask yourself some hard questions and say, how do I get there? And what am I going to do? What am I willing to strive for? What am I willing to sacrifice and make it happen?
Amazing. Aaron-san, thank you so
はい。
much.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you.
Thank you.
ありがとうございました。